And now we're going to bring this to the panel. NBC's senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor joins me, and Taryn Rosenkranz, former managing director of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee and founder of and CEO of New Blue Interactive, and Republican strategist Malik Abdul. Now, we have plenty to talk about. First, let me just start with you, Sahil. When you look at these allegations and what it means to the Democratic brand broadly at a time when they feel so good about their potential to reclaim the House, maybe even the Senate. We've seen some movement. How damaging are these problems?
Seriously damaging, but more so if Democrats are seen as protecting Swalwell. That's where it elevates. If they're not, then it's a very different story. Then this is a case of one man doing some bad things. So far, we've seen Democrats successfully push him out of the governor's race. That's just a start. They've supported an ethics committee investigation. Just moments ago, a group of more than a dozen House Democrats came out and said it should be expedited as well. Some have already come out and said he should be expelled. So this is the kind of thing that signals that they're not going to support this behavior and tolerate this behavior. Now, there's also, in addition to Eric Swalwell, another Democrat, Sheila Phyllis McCormick, under ethics investigation for allegedly stealing taxpayer money. Ryan talked about Tony Gonzalez, as well as Corey Mills, another Republican who's been accused of sexual misconduct under investigation. So there's
not a one-party problem.
It's not a one-party problem, and let's say there are a lot of options that that the House has in front of them in terms of deciding whether they're going to put up with this and where they're going to draw the line.
And Taryn, you've been in these rooms where you're deciding campaign issues. And when you talk about the nature of these allegations, and Swalwell denies some of the allegations, he has acknowledged some misjudgments. We don't know exactly what that means. Does this now rise to Democratic leadership in the House and any responsibility they have for protecting their own staffers, for how they set standards?
Yeah, I think you'll see a lot of this discussion come up again. I mean, I think there's going to be more joins in the chorus for the call for him to resign. I can't imagine anything different at this point, especially, I don't think anyone's saying don't investigate, but him being resigned still continues a criminal investigation, as we saw, and some of the other things. And I think that just all around, we are, as a Democratic Party, really committed to making sure that we are transparent and honest. And that's been this big belief and talking point, and we really have to act as we are saying. And so I think you're going to continue to see that there will be meetings there of asking him to resign. And if they have to step in to do something, those meetings will be happening, I'm sure.
And as we said, Republicans have their own set of issues. How do you think the party needs to respond in this moment? Is it kind of equal justice across the way, or is there an opportunity to do some positioning based on the different circumstances among these members?
Well, I think the inclination, simply because we're in politics, is to make it political, so one side has a political advantage over the other. But at the end of the day, when it comes to assault, I do think it's something that we need to take seriously. At the end of the day, I do also believe that there are people who, I think all of the victims or alleged victims need to be heard. That doesn't necessarily mean they need to be believed. So I think we also need to be cognizant of that fact that at this point, these are just accusations. But I do believe that there is a responsibility on Congress to govern itself. Has that ever happened? No.
It's always challenging. But they do have the levers of control right now. And would you expect that the Speaker, for example, would want to have a slow process, a swift process, any sense of what you would expect given the pressures of this moment and the limited time until November?
I would imagine, especially considering the numbers in Congress, that Speaker Johnson would be reluctant to kind of push one of the members out of Congress. I do think that the members themselves, though, they could take that upon themselves, but I doubt very seriously that there would be any push for Johnson to expel a member of Congress until we get more information. I think where everybody is sitting on is saying that at this point, these are just allegations.
You hate to think that the tiny margins in the House matter in a case like this, but they absolutely
you think politics?
They do for a lot of reasons, even though the public will probably find that yet another thing that's terribly annoying. From the House now, we've talked about that. Let's move to the Senate, because there's some interesting new information from the Cook Political Report, shifting 4 races in the favor of Democrats on the Senate side. So we see these. This is really critical terrain for this year. Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio, and Nebraska. What does this tell us about how voters are feeling statewide races, not just dependable districts? What's your take with this shift?
The entire national political environment is deteriorating substantially for Republicans, and we see that on a number of different vectors. It's remarkable to see where some of these races are rated. Georgia being lean Democrat. This is a race that's been, or a state that's been historically Republican. Donald Trump just won it in 2024. Now it's lean Democrat. They have a strong incumbent in John Ossoff, who's raising a lot of money and positioning himself well. It's even more stunning to see North Carolina rated lean Democrat. Democrats have not won there since 2008. They always come up just a little bit short, but the fact is they have the candidate they wanted in the two-term governor, Roy Cooper, against a Republican who's a former
Candidate quality matters.
Absolutely, it matters.
Ohio, you've got Sherrod Brown running again.
Ohio, I think the candidate contrast is useful to Democrats. Nebraska is still very much a long shot, but the fact that even that is moving tells you something.
It does tell us something. So, Malik, what do we think in terms of the amount of time? It's April, feels like a long way to November. What do you think Republicans would need to do to change the trajectory of voter sentiment?
Well, the irony is that it's not so much of what Republicans need to do. It's more so Donald Trump. Remember earlier in the year, there were conversations from Susie Wiles about how Donald Trump... He's not being all that
helpful, is he?
Well, that's where I was going there, is that, Donald Trump was going to focus a lot on the economy. I think it's hard to argue that he's been focused on the economy. And so I talked to people at the NRSC, the National Republican Senatorial Committee, and although they have talked about those states, they kind of thought that Georgia would go Ossoff anyway since Brian Kemp decided not to run. But they're looking at what happens because it's the momentum here, in that when you look at a place like Texas, Beto O'Rourke beat Ted Cruz by 2.6 percentage points. That was when he ran against Ted Cruz. Well, Tallarico people seem to like him more. So I think that Republicans are looking at that, with Donald Trump deciding that he's not going to endorse it all. If Cornyn ends up winning, well, if MAGA says, well, we don't like Cornyn, we're going to stay at home, that could potentially impact a place like Texas.
There were people who believed Beto O'Rourke was going to win that race.
Yeah, but 2.6%. That's actually...
Yeah, but Cruz won.
Yes.
Yes, just clearing that up.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Yes, just because that was an alternate universe we were in for a while. Do you get the sense that it's candidate quality in Georgia? That it's an incumbent, that is part of it?
I do think that's part of it. I think you have a very solid person who's talking. The thing is with all of the candidates, they are talking about what matters to Americans and what's happening at home, which is that things are not feeling affordable. Everything feels too expensive, whether you're at the gas pump for your car, if you're trying to get on a flight, everything is impacted by what's happening. And Donald Trump is continuing to ignore it. So when you have candidates that are talking about, here's what I can do, here's what can happen, here's how I can make it better for you, people are feeling listened to, and that's having an impact.
I had so many more things on my list, panel. We've got to have you back to keep that conversation going. Thank you to each of you. Appreciate your expertise.